without somebody in here to show. But that's it. And again, look at the different features here. You could take a little capture of who's on the screen. There's a lot of cameraman. This is where you could edit. So play with those tools. But then what it does, and then if you hit, I wasn't broadcasting, but if I started the broadcast, and it's recording now. Just a second. So now it tells us we're on air, it's recording, but I'm just going to stop it. And now when I close it, it's going to take a little while to render, but it will send it to you. It will be right in YouTube as a video. And then I take that embed code and I'll put it in my Moodle class. So it's nice because it's not limited to the time. Where a lot of the other free screencasts are pretty full. A lot of time to replay. But the Hangouts for not only recording, but having students collectively talk together, it's a nice tool. To make that human connection. Mm-hmm. Does anybody else use Hangouts with students? Yeah. How do you use them?
I used it with an administrator and another teacher when we went to the New England Secondary Schools Consortium.
Oh, okay.
And we were like scattered around the room and we were kind of brainstorming with each other on the presentation we were watching without like whispering.
Oh, okay, that's a little idea. Any other uses? Yeah.
Well, I use it with my language students.
Oh, okay. So do they meet? Do you have a regular time to meet? The problem I have is my students don't know. They have such different schedules.
Yeah.
It's really hard.
Sometimes it'll just pop up even when I'm online with something else. It'll just, they're online kids.
And that reminds me, the difference between the live hangout we just did, that records it for YouTube. You can have just quick hangouts that don't record, doesn't save, and it's easier to do.
That would be very useful. Sometimes I find myself saying, because the directions maybe on the assignment aren't very clear, so I end up having 2 or 3 kids do the same. I end up doing the same hangout with them.
You have a regular record it, and then
oh my gosh, my students don't know. They have such different skills.
Was it good? I've done this before, but I don't know if it was Hangouts. You port it into their screen and you can control their cursor to show them where to find different
That's an
assignments.
app. That's actually a nice app. It's a remote control app in the Chromebook store.
But I did that through inviting them to a video call through Calendar.
Oh, okay. Actually, maybe it is a feature in there too. Because there's a lot of apps within the Hangout.
So is that Calendar?
No, I don't know.
Is this video call?
You can actually, Hangouts is added to Calendar now. So you
Then
Calendar,
that's what it must have been
yeah.
Hangouts, and then you just invite somebody to an event, and then as soon as the event starts.
Events, yeah, that's a whole. I mean, there's so much. There's so much in here. We can't cover it in 2 hours. I mean, we offer a course in a week. We still don't cover it all. But there's so many applications and uses for the different tools. One thing I wanted to share though was the human element. 2 years ago, it was this time of year, in the middle of our course, one of our students died. And it was like, wow, on an online course, that's such a different piece. Because we had sort of made a community. In your face-to-face class, you can see your students. Well, how do you deal with that? Because in a face-to-face classroom, you sort of debrief it and you sit and talk about it. But in the online world, it's a whole different place. I've never been, and I'm not sure anybody else has. So we sort of came together and we built the next lesson was making presentations. And so we all went through his blogs, read them. We learned as much about him as we could, and we created a presentation about students together. And it brought us all closer. But I think that just brings the piece of online teaching, that these are all human pieces, and how do we build that community together? I think these tools allow that in a much richer way than it used to be, where you're just sending out documents for them to fill out, or they're computer-aided clicking through buttons. So I wanted, again, we only have a few more minutes, so I'm not going to get through. Again, the blogger I mentioned, all my students blog each week. Here's one student who's allowed me to share hers, the reflective blog. So again, each week, it's a collection. By the time they're done at the course, they have this whole archive of every week's media they created, what they've learned, the challenges they had. And I really expect them each week to really reflect, and I talk about their writing in a blog. We do a whole lesson on writing for a blog, and that it's very different than just text, and how do we communicate message. But it's a nice piece, because then over time, we can see everything we've done, and they really like to see that piece at the end. She actually used hers when she applied to UVM as an example to the communications class, but it's a very nice tool for the more we talk about our learning, the more we can and reflect on it, the more we learn. I think it's that. So that was it's a powerful piece of assessment in our class. Because every time I read that, and they have to be specific about every assignment, what they learn, what challenge they have. I understand whether they got it or not. So to me, that's a formative assessment. And it's a way for them to, again, reflect on it. And in Google Plus, we talked about the communities and how we use them. And so there's lots of other ways. Here's some links, again, for using Google Plus as a learning management system. There's a lot of college I belong to, again, there's a Google community for that. And a lot of college students are seeing the value of this and just building their own Google management system for their classes as well. So I wanted to get to the Q&A. Somebody was mentioning, I think that's about, I think I've got through this everything. Part one. So there's a lot of questions. And again, if you feel like you have an answer for this, type it in and help people get through it as well. So rather than reading this, were there any comments or questions people wanted to share?
My computer's died, so I have a question I have to give verbally. I'm looking for a video editor which will let students share editing on one piece of video, which I know Video does. But you have to pay for each site, as far as I know, each account in order to share. It's a premium level.
They have an educational, and actually there's an educational, they have a new educational pricing for just schools. I wonder if ATVLC would sort of buy that, because I think it's a really valuable tool, because the sharing and collaborating is the power of any digital marketing. And rather than just make it and then put it up and get comments, what we did, we would have them make it, we would have